I've got a special episode of Running Wild for you this week. I'm celebrating my 10th year living in Colorado, and this is kind of where it all began, at least this area. And in fact, the views I showed driving in ended up changing my life. As soon as I saw those mountains, I felt like this was home. And while I actually came here for a job that was supposed to be in Denver, and it was going to be a really good job. In fact, Forbes had rated it one of the top 10 hardest interviews in the country to get this job. But I experienced these mountains, and it got me thinking about how I wanted to live my life. And so for this video, I am going to take you back on that journey with me of what it was like moving here on my own right after college, and how I ended up living in this area, Chaffee County, instead of going for that really good job in the city.
When you came over, my heart was on its way out. I wasn't sober, and I was thinking out loud. I spoke of your bravery, your wit and audacity, of coming over and letting go of it all. Please move close to me. You love differently, so move close to me.
So we have a little bit of a story within a story for this video. Today's adventure is me climbing Mount Antero, which is a 14er here in the Swatch Range of Colorado. And Sage is winning the Boyfriend of the Year award because he's making it so I can do a point to point. So right now we have to go drop one of the cars off, and then I'm going to go up Browns Creek, and I'm actually going to do a little bit off trail. I'm going to do the Nolan's 14 route, at least try. First time really going off trail at all by myself, but it's a really small section. So I know like I can't get too lost, and I know the area really well. And then I'm going to go down the standard route of Mount Antero, and that'll be my point to point. I think it's going to be somewhere between, I guess it's like 17 and 20 miles. But I'll let you know once the run is done. So definitely not an alpine start today. Had some technical gear difficulties, but got it figured out, and gonna go drop the car off now. Thanks for dropping me off. That was nice of you.
Yeah, you got everything out of the car?
Yeah.
All right, lock it up. Have a good adventure.
Thanks.
It's gonna be a hot one.
Yeah.
Already.
Meet me where the meadows grow by the water hole. Lucid dreams of you and me. Sky high, busy life, I wanna leave. Oh, muscle tight, early light, cleanse down joy.
Made it to Browns Lake, about to take a gel with a little caffeine in it, just because it's a nice little extra boost at higher altitudes. But it is hot. I don't think I've ever been around this altitude and had it be this toasty out. So been trying to like really conserve my energy. I'm gonna refill, not this lake, a little bit higher up, because I know there's a stream and it's gonna be a little bit cleaner. But still a long day ahead of me. Don't want to dilly-dally, so let's get going.
Cleanse down joy. Say my name or say it twice. Shed this layer of overthinking. Oh, I don't wanna be less than I can be. Waterfalls wash me. The wicked drowning water, let go, wicked water. Wicked drowning water.
We are at the clutch spot of the day. It's time to go off trail to get to the top of Mount Antero. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little intimidated right now. I know I can do it. But again, like I'm used to always having somebody with me when I do this kind of stuff. And so having to trust myself 100% is a little nerve-wracking, but I know I can do it, so I'm going to start. And I kind of have to get to my car because Sage is going to be gone at the other trailhead, so no pressure. But yeah, I know I can do it, and you get to come along for the ride. Already out of the trees, and this really isn't bad at all right now. Memories coming back well from last year's trip up Antero, and also just know this area really well, so already feeling quite confident in getting to where I need to go without being on the trail.
Cleanse me, the wicked drowning water, let go wicked water, wicked drowning water.
Got it done. We'll now be on trail or Jeep road the rest of the way. And honestly, that was pretty easy. And in my head, or logically, I knew that was within my wheelhouse and I'd just be just fine. But I think it was, this is my first 14 of the year doing it alone. And it's better to have a healthy dose of fear than be overly cocky in your skills. So yeah, it feels good to be on the official trail going up Antero now. Yeah, now just a straight shot.
Let's go on the longest journey.
Made it! First 14er summit of the year, and I get a special treat. I have the whole summit to myself. It's rare that happens these days in Colorado, so I feel like one lucky woman right now. Enjoy the view to myself. This was a big push. It's about 10 miles from the start at Bronze Creek, and I think it's right around 6,000 feet of gain, maybe a little bit under. But it felt like a big push. My energy level is pretty good. I definitely realize where my legs are telling me it's been a while since I've done something like this. So we'll see how the downhill feels. The downhill after this trail, this last little push up, is quite rocky. It doesn't feel dangerous, but it's technical. But yeah, after that, there's a road going down. So we'll see if that's good for my legs or actually harder on my legs. It'll be an adventure. We got the main part in today, and man, I am one lucky woman to be living in Colorado for over 10 years now. It's really the views and adventures like this that have made me fall in love with Colorado, and even after 10 years, I love it probably more than I did when I first moved here. It's truly my epic land of adventure. So last summer, Sage and I tried to go down this way, and that was a really bad idea. Don't do that.
Sunrise, sunset, hopes and dreams and regret. Now it's all the same. Call me out from my shadow self. It's time I can tell. I don't wanna be less than I can be. Waterfalls wash me. The wicked drowning water, let go wicked water. Wicked drowning water.
So I just got back to the camp spot, and Sage unfortunately had to go back to Boulder because he has a doctor's appointment tomorrow. But look what he left. Very cute, Sage. As I mentioned before, Sage unfortunately had to go back to Boulder, which means I'm camping alone tonight. But you know what? That's fitting for the story of me moving to Colorado. I think I left off yesterday saying that I had a job lined up for me to move here. But what happened is the job was always supposed to be in Denver or Colorado Springs. The training was actually in Arizona for a month. During that training, I was working from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, fitting in meals in between, could barely run, and I was trying to train for Western states. Still went to Western States, did terribly because I was super stressed out. I wasn't sleeping. I had all kinds of stomach issues because of stress and just food that I wasn't used to. And I honestly loved the reason behind the job I was supposed to have. But I didn't want the lifestyle of having to work all day long. And so while I was in Arizona, and this was already after like a month of training, it was supposed to be almost done, like I had a couple more days to go, I decided to take a leap of faith. And this is after many tears. Till this day, it was probably one of the hardest decisions I had to make, was to leave that job. But I left. Took that leap of faith, took my car, drove back to Denver to get all my stuff where it was in storage, and I was out of a job. I had nowhere to go. So what happened from there is I went to REI. I got myself a tent, and then I was just like, I'm just going to camp until I figure it out. But by the time I got the tent and got my stuff, and I had to go to Goodwill just to try to get rid of some stuff because camping, I just couldn't leave everything in my car. And I ended up at a really sketchy hotel. It's the kind of place where, you're checking for needles underneath the bed. Survived that. And then the next night was my first night camping ever alone. And it was actually on Magnolia Road in Boulder, or just outside of Boulder. I guess, I don't know if it's technically Netherlands. And I was terrified. I was terrified that I made the wrong decision, and I was also terrified of camping alone. So I set up the tent, which I would never camp there now. It's not the best place to camp. But I was in tears. I think it was raining. I was cold. I didn't know how to set up a tent. But I figured it out, cried a lot, and then the plan was to explore Colorado and also California for a month while trying to find a job. And so that's what I did. I came back to this part of Colorado, also climbed some other 14ers closer to the Front Range, and it was fantastic. It was the first time I had that freedom of exploring and just relying 100% on myself. I was totally broke, so like I had a tent and an okay sleeping bag, but I didn't even have a pot or a place to cook. Everything I ate was cold because I didn't want to spend the extra money on like cooking stuff. I didn't even have a camping chair. I just sat on the ground the whole summer. But I did that, and I also went to California because I wanted to do Western States again. That was in my head. So I decided to check out California. And in California scared the crap out of me camping too, because I saw so many bears when I was camping there, and being from Cleveland, Ohio, I'm not used to bears. Oh my gosh, I was absolutely terrified. I ended up sleeping in my car most nights because the first night I camped in California, I had a bear like circling my tent. Man, that made me rethink some things. Again, if I was making the right call or not. But what ended up happening was I really wanted to have what I'll call a year of service. And so I was looking through AmeriCorps, which is basically volunteering your time for a year. And they do give you a stipend, but still living below poverty. But I was really set on doing that. And what ended up happening, I had the same job in Auburn, California, in Buena Vista, Colorado. And after a long debate, I decided this part of Colorado, Buena Vista and Salida, was my home. And so what ended up happening is I worked at the Boys and Girls Club in Buena Vista, and I lived in Salida, Colorado. So it was about a half an hour commute every day. And I lived with another AmeriCorps worker. And I just fell in love with this place. I fell in love with this place as soon as I saw it. It was a completely different style of living than I was used to in Cleveland, Ohio. And I just felt myself relax. And just the adventures just blew my mind away. that's not to say anything was easy. Like, as I said, like, I was really volunteering for that first year, and so I just continued my streak of being broke and just trying to get by, which is hard. And just being out on my own without any family was hard. And that continues to be hard to be away from family. But I don't feel guilty about it because I know my parents want me to be here. And they want both me and my sister Ray to live here. And when Ray moved here, that really set things in stone like this. This is my forever home. Like, really, like, Ray and Pacer moving here was my dream come true. And definitely gives my parents a reason to visit more. And also now we drive back to Ohio every Christmas, and I'm at the point where I can fly back more to see my family. In fact, I'm going to see my parents next week, which I'm excited about. But it was one of the hardest summers of my life, but one of the best summers of my life at the same time. And it was truly a leap of faith, and I was terrified every single moment almost, but I loved it. And it was the first time in my life I really thought about what I wanted and how I wanted to live my life. And that chain of thought is still continuing this year. We'll hopefully sometime soon be sharing some big news with you as Sage and I figure out together of what we want our lives to look like. But yeah, that's how I ended up in this land of adventure, and it was truly one of the best decisions I have ever made. Now, I know it's not realistic for everyone just to pick up and move to wherever they want, but as I've said in past videos, I think you can always find your own adventures. You can always find your group of people where you're at. Sometimes you just have to look a little bit harder for it. But also, sometimes take that moment to think about what you really want, and if taking that leap of faith is worth it. And I admit, like, I took that leap and I felt like I was falling and falling and falling before I was finally caught with the net, and then you just crawl your way back up. And there's days I still feel like that, but I'll never regret that decision. And where I'm at right now, it's not the easiest life. I could have had a much more secure lifestyle, but that's not what I personally wanted. I totally understand why other people would choose a different route, but again, just think about what you want your life to look like and what means the most to you, and every now and then, don't be afraid to take that leap of faith.